Hey, I'm Stefan,
And Mike.
and we're just two dudes with opinions that nobody asked for.
That's right. I like it. That's the opening.
And we're on.
Yes. What would you like to talk about today?
So, did you see the one about the cuttlefish?
I did not.
So, evidently, scientists, researchers have found that cuttlefish display the ability to delay gratification like small children. Have you heard of the marshmallow test?
No.
So the marshmallow test is you put a marshmallow in front of let's say, I don't know, a 4 or 5 year old child,
Hmm.
and you tell them if you don't eat this marshmallow now, in 10 minutes, you can have another marshmallow. You'll have two.
Okay.
And then they leave the room, and the child is just there sitting with the marshmallow, and the marshmallow is like antagonizing them, saying, "Eat me, eat me." And the child obviously has the choice. They can delay gratification to get two marshmallows, or they can eat it. And they did a similar experiment with cuttlefish, and I don't know really why they decided to do this, but they displayed ideas of or they exhibited the ability to delay gratification as well.
Wow.
Yeah, the intelligence. So now they're wanting to do another test to see if it can display the ability to pre-plan,
Oh, that's interesting.
which is another interesting thought. So
We don't, yeah, I feel like we don't understand animal intelligence very well, maybe.
no, there's especially these kind. I mean, like the octopus, they kind of feel like is an
Yeah.
alien from a different planet.
Yeah,
Like these animals are just bizarre.
totally. Have you
What?
seen that film, My Octopus Teacher?
No,
Oh, it's fascinating. It's fascinating. Anyway, that was derailing.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah.
But yeah, at some point the cuttlefish might take over, and we'll be living a sci-fi movie. So
Not surprised. I would not be surprised.
not at all.
Yeah. I ran into a fascinating story
Hmm.
this week, and there was a little list of kind of the next big problems that America is not ready for. Problems is not the right word. The next big things equivalent to the kind of the pandemic that we're going through right now, maybe.
Yeah.
And one of them linked to an article from the New Yorker from 2015 called The Really Big One. An earthquake will destroy a sizable portion of the coastal Northwest.
Oh
The, que-
my.
the question is when?
So it's like this has already been decided. This is going
Right.
to happen, or
Yeah.
discovered, I should say.
Yeah. So there's a subduction zone that goes along 700 miles of the Pacific Northwest, right?
Uh-huh.
Which is like two whatchamacallit plates,
Tectonic.
tectonic plates, yeah, that are coming together.
Wow.
And so for an example, like they said the San Andreas fault,
Hmm.
they believe can hit an upper limit of roughly an 8.2 earthquake.
Mm.
And they say that this subduction zone, the Cascadia subduction zone, can hit up to a 9.2. And with the Richter scale, it's not like a 1 and a 2 is equivalent to an 8 and a 9.
I see.
It's
So
like
it's
a 1 and a 2 is,
exponentially worse.
yeah, it's equivalent to like an 8 and a 1 million. So,
I was gonna say, doesn't it only go up to 10? And 10 is the
yeah,
implosion of the entire world.
right. 10 is it's all over. But it's crazy. They say, I'll read some of it here. The area of impact will cover some 140,000 square miles, including Seattle, Tacoma, Portland, Eugene, Salem, and Olympia. The scary part is they say in the next 50 years, the odds are roughly 1 in 3 of a
Oh,
of a big earthquake happening, and 1 in 10 of the really big earthquake happening, like a 9.2.
wow. I was going to say 1 in 3. That's nearly,
That's yeah,
that's, that is a low range.
that's not a big, yeah,
Yeah, we don't have a lot of chance on
not
that.
a big range. And it just keeps getting worse. Some of
Oh
it's kind
no.
of interesting. So 30 years ago, no one knew that the subduction zone had ever produced an earthquake at all.
Mm.
45 years ago, they didn't know it existed,
Oh,
which is kind of interesting. And the science behind it is I think is fascinating. So there's this, let me see if I can show you this. There is a, I don't know if you can see that.
I can. Yeah.
So there is a ghost forest just off the coast of Washington of these dead trees, and everyone thought it was because of a little sea level rise. They all
Mm.
died because of salt water.
Hmm.
And then these scientists in the 80s started looking closer at it and took core samples, and they figured out that all of the trees died at the exact same time and dated it
Oh,
back to around 1700.
okay.
And then nobody kind of knew why. And then in the 90s, in the mid 90s, other scientists saw this research and said, wait a second, the Japanese, who are awesome, have kept records of tsunamis and earthquakes since 599 AD.
What?
And
That's
so they,
crazy.
yeah, and so they went back and they found what they called an orphan tsunami around 1700 that was a tsunami without an accompanying earthquake.
Oh, except it was on the other side of the world.
Except it was on the right on the earthquake was on the other side of the world. So they found the stories of it, of a 600-mile long wave that struck the Japanese coast.
Wow.
Um, and so then I guess they started going back and looked at some documented stories of Pacific Northwest Native people, and there were
Mm.
stories going back generations about tribes being wiped out and canoes and trees and things like this. And so they started lining everything up together, and it all fit around 1700.
Wow.
So then some other scientists started taking core samples of the ocean, and they
Ah,
can determine when the earthquakes happened.
okay.
So let me make sure I have the numbers right here. Let me see if I can find them. I might have lost them. Okay, so here it is. So now, from the core samples in the ocean, we are now 315 years into a 243-year cycle.
Oh,
So there's a big earthquake roughly every 243 years from this subduction zone, and there hasn't been one for 315 years.
did they talk about why it's taken longer for it to come around this time?
No, no. I mean, they talked a little bit about sometimes the subduction zones just kind of move along and just kind of slide nicely and don't, I guess,
Mm,
build up that tension.
hmm.
But eventually they
It's coming.
produce giant, yeah, earthquakes. And it is, the Pacific Northwest is not ready for it. It's going to be ugly.
Oh, this is insane.
Yeah. So it's kind of
Remember,
fascinating.
that's very fascinating. Remember that movie? What was it called? Was it called San Andreas Fault?
Mm-hmm.
Where the limo driver goes home to get his family and they're all in the limo and he's like jumping over where the road is just seizing up and down, and that's how I imagine this is going
It's
to
gonna
be.
be, it's totally gonna be like that. Yeah, they say that half of the bridges are gonna fail. I think they expect 17 of the 19 bridges in and out of Portland to fail.
Oh my.
So it's gonna be. I was in. I think it was a 5.9
Okay.
earthquake. That's the
Really?
biggest I've been, and it was just after Haiti, like 10 days after the big Haiti one. I was down there,
Oh,
and we
okay.
had a 5.9 aftershock, and
Hmm.
that's not even close. And I do not want to be in anything bigger than a 5.9.
I've never been in any earthquake. I can't
Oh
imagine how it would
man,
feel for the entire ground to just be like,
it's
what was the
so
experience like?
it's so strange. So the first one I ever experienced, I was in Southern California, trying to go to sleep on an air mattress,
Oh,
and it was a very small one, and it felt like somebody kicked my air mattress from the wall, like hitting because up against the wall.
oh,
And so I jumped up. I had no idea what happened, and then I think the next day I figured out there were a couple of small earthquakes, like two and a half
wild.
maybe.
Huh.
The bigger one though, the big one in Haiti, that was like a big jolt.
Mm,
I was sleeping on top of a building, and it was like a big dump truck just slammed into it,
wow.
full speed. Everybody was running out, screaming, but
So it was a lot of fun.
it was
I take it.
it was a lot of fun. Woke everybody up. It was in the middle of the night.
Oh man, that's crazy.
Yeah,
Oh yeah, one
but
day, who knows when.
it was and so the science behind this is really interesting, I think. And one of the things they think is going to happen when this does happen is that there's going to be a migration out of the area because it's going to take
Oh,
so long to rebuild.
I see. So people are like, forget this. I'm out of here.
Yeah, which we're already kind of starting to see with climate change
Yep.
in places like Syria.
Speaking of climate change,
Yeah.
I'm having a when hell freezes over time starting my next YouTube video.
Mm, nice transition. Tell me about that.
Well, I've spent a lot of time getting all the little pieces of gear that I might need, figuring out, oh, to do that shot, I would need to get this, and I would just go order it and whatever, and collecting all this gear. I've created some outlines, but I'm like having the hardest time getting over this idea that this story, that I don't have a story worth sharing.
Hmm.
And it just feels so daunting that I look at these YouTubers that are doing this full time and it's like, man, these guys have it so, and girls have it so great. And, it's amazing and all this stuff. I'll never be able to do that. And then I never start.
Right.
And of course, if you don't start anything, you don't, never learn, and then you never grow. And then, of course, you never go anywhere.
Right. Yeah.
So I've just got, doing stuff like this podcast, I hope will help because I need to get more views of me in front of the camera and getting used to the idea that, maybe I don't sound that crazy,
Yeah.
although I could, and maybe I've got a story worth sharing after all, maybe it might help somebody.
Yeah.
But it's so difficult, man.
It is. It really is. Yeah. Some of it I think is getting used to it, is repetition.
Mm,
Like I don't have a lot of time in front of a camera,
right.
but I think I've had enough where it's not as intimidating as it used to be.
Got it.
Maybe.
Was there a point where it was like, I've done it enough? It feels like, was that like was it a milestone or
I don't
just
think
kind of
so.
gradually?
Yeah, just kind of gradually. And it's still like there's still like always a little bit of like a doubt and anxiety before I publish something,
Right.
before I
Yeah.
make it go live, especially if my face is out there on it.
You know what's weird though?
Yeah.
When we did the video, the Halloween short or the horror short,
Yeah.
I didn't seem to have any, I had no um, apprehension about, because obviously I'm not an actor. So, and it showed.
Yeah.
But it was like, well, I'm doing this for fun with Chloe, and it was an idea of a story that we could maybe do a film on. And you
Yeah.
were you were interested in doing something because you wanted to create something that was a little different than maybe some of the work you were doing at the
Yeah.
time or something. So it just seemed like it all kind of fell together, and I didn't think twice about it. Maybe that's it. If I overthink it, I'm getting into this place where I overthink it. Because there we just had a schedule that we agreed to, and it's like, okay, you got to be there. And this, it's like I'm writing the schedule. So I'm like, oh, well, that I really need to do the laundry right now. Maybe, maybe tomorrow.
I think there's something to that.
Mm.
Something to having deadlines or
Ah.
something. I was thinking about that today a little bit actually.
Mm.
How like projects where I know I have to get it done seem to happen faster
They magically just get done.
than yeah. Than other personal projects maybe where I don't have a deadline.
The hardest thing is setting a deadline for myself.
Right.
Maybe I need to set a deadline and tell someone else, or make sure, to have some sort of accountability
That's a
to
good
someone.
that's a good trick. Yeah, I do that. If I tell someone else I'm going to do something by this time,
Mm,
then I feel like I have to do it.
you're right. I know I've got 17 subscribers on YouTube right now.
Mm.
I'm going to just let them know. Dropping a
Mm-hmm.
new vid
Coming up.
this Monday.
Yeah.
I can't get caught up in the idea that, I didn't really have a good set, or, the video angle was really bad, or,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like some of the experience I don't have in editing, let's say.
Yeah.
I really can't get caught up in that. But that's the hard thing to get to for me, not to want to have as a really good presentation. So,
Yeah.
and then I feel like the idea of the story can feel like it's kind of weak. And it's like, well, this doesn't even compare to what Peter McKinnon is doing.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Maybe it's a
but
different audience.
exactly. Exactly. I just wanted to look cool like that, though. So that's the problem.
Right.
It's like, man, wish I was filming out of a helicopter right now.
Right. I know. Oh my goodness. Um, yeah, I don't know. I feel like maybe from my editings, from some of my early editing jobs and probably and current editing jobs actually. I have to kind of make the best of what I have.
Mm-hmm. I see what you're
And
saying.
and sometimes like that's good enough.
So I wonder if I set a deadline for photography, like to get all the scenes shot that I think I need, and then just deal with whatever I have.
Yeah.
Like if I was on a schedule like that.
Yeah, just make it work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It
Well,
might might be tough,
it's going to be real tough.
but
What's the idea of it's the idea of going it's the idea of telling yourself I'm gonna publish one video a day for the
yeah.
next 30 days. Let's say 30 days.
Okay.
Like maybe this is exactly what I probably should do. Post one video a day for 30 days.
Mm-hmm.
No, I guess no real constraint on how long it needs to be. Unless unless a certain length makes more sense. Like, I guess you could cheat and have a 3-second video, but
Right.
beyond doing something like that,
Yeah.
because then you get into this groove maybe of like, I can't overthink the story. I've got to
Mm-hmm.
shoot the footage in like an hour,
Right.
and then the edit has to be really compact as well. And you just go, 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 go.
Yeah. It's like a news story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, basically.
They know they got to get 2 minutes out or whatever.
Yep.
2 minute story every day. Yeah,
Maybe
that's
that's an
interesting.
interesting approach. Wonder how long do you think would be a good length? 2 minutes? You think that would make sense? Like a minimum 2 minute?
I think you could do that if that's what you're doing. If you have a lot of other things happening, that could be tough on some days.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah,
If you're
yeah,
trying
yeah.
to make like a polished, finished
Yeah.
video.
These would be I mean, this would be rough. This would be like
Yeah.
first cut material type
Like
of
lots of
stuff.
jump cuts and
Exactly. This would be
yeah.
rough.
Yeah.
It would be YouTube centric kind of work, but on the less polished side, there's some YouTubers that really go
Yeah.
deep, clearly,
Yeah.
but on the less polished side.
I would say 2 to 3 minutes would be a
Good target.
good target. You could do like a 20 to 30-second opening and
That's
then have
true.
like a minute and a half for the main bulk of your story and then a 20-second closing.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. Oh, speaking of YouTube, this just popped in my mind.
Yeah.
I saw this one video where this YouTuber was going over the average number of videos it took for channels to reach a certain number of subscribers.
Oh, that's interesting. What was it?
And not only the number of videos, but how long.
Oh, let me write this
Uh,
down.
I don't have the exact numbers, but prepare to be depressed if a very quick YouTube career bringing up was your plan. Because I think on average, I
Yeah.
think like 10,000 subscribers, the average number of videos that the channels had was like 300
Wow. Okay.
or something crazy like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
You're looking at years,
yes, yeah,
building
basically.
something for years. Yeah.
Exactly, basically.
Yeah.
Like just right off the first 2 to 3 years, as that was just you getting started.
Just the start. Yeah.
Yep, yep. If you're atypical, you might get lucky, you might hit a home run somehow. Some people
Yeah.
have done it. They were just waiting to be discovered in a sense,
Right.
but that's not normal.
That's interesting. Did YouTube begin?
How old is YouTube?
Yeah, I wonder how old it is because at one of my old jobs, I started a channel. I want to say in 2009.
YouTube is 16 years old. It started in 05.
Okay, it might have been it's somewhere between 2007, 2009, 2000. Yeah, okay. Um, somewhere between there, I started a YouTube channel pretty early on for the business I was working for, and it took a little bit, but that thing was getting views.
Was it?
Like by the end, I mean, it took like 7 years in maybe,
Exactly.
but it was getting consistent like views, and every now and then something would go off and we'd get a spike and get a couple 100,000 views on a video.
Wow.
But everything was getting like consistently thousands of views a day.
I mean, it's definitely possible.
Yeah.
You see it happening for people clearly. And I think it all depends on the genre that you're creating videos around as well.
Yeah.
Because if you're a comedian kind of thing and you're good and you are somewhat innovative, well, then you're David Dobrik. And within 3 years, you're living in $1 million house
Right.
in LA.
Right.
It's like that can happen. We see that this is possible,
Yeah.
but it's clearly an outlier.
It's like winning the lottery.
Essentially, yes,
Yeah.
yes. Pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting.
Mm.
Well, I mean,
Well,
if you go in, if you don't have to make money off of it, and you go in knowing that you're going to spend years trying to build something,
mm-hmm.
and your end goal is not necessarily to have a YouTube career,
Right.
I think that's how you have to approach it, right?
Yep. Yep. No, you're exactly right. And I don't really know what the end game is.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know what exactly I want to do with that scenario. I think documenting it would be interesting for me,
Mm-hmm.
even personally. I could look back at something 10 years from now and say, wow, that was a pretty cool project, or, whatever. But it
Yeah.
would be fun to explore this as a way to meet people and grow relationships with people who might be doing the same thing. I think that's another facet of this that I'm really interested in.
Mm,
Finding a tribe of people who are doing either the same thing, either with YouTube or creating media like that, or with some
right.
of the projects that I'm doing, or, that type of, or the mix of the two.
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. That's really, I think, like the future of community, right? Where
Oh,
it's
yes.
going, it's all going to be like that kind of a thing as a random thought.
Well, speaking of community,
Yeah.
I've got another idea that I just thought about that would be really interesting topic. Speaking of community, have you heard about the non-fungible tokens and how the art world is being taken over by this stuff?
Yes. Fascinating stuff.
Very fascinating. So, have you heard of Mr. Beast? It's a
No.
YouTuber, young guy. He creates YouTube videos that are kind of outrageous, where he does either outrageous contests or he'll fill
Okay.
up a swimming pool
I think I
of
have heard of this.
Orbeez.
Yes.
What I like about him is that he's not just about like making money and living in expensive houses. He's more about, a lot of his stuff is he's just giving money away to people who might need it, or he's paying for
Okay.
people's college tuition, or he's
Yeah.
giving people cars, or, and in the mix he's doing all these crazy things. He just opened a burger chain, but it's the food is cooked in these not they're not a real restaurant. It's like these phantom kitchens, and then they're
Oh,
delivered
right.
via the all the delivery food services.
Right.
Anyway, long story short, I heard something about non-fungible tokens. Of course, artists are using this to sell one-of-a-kind digital artwork.
Mm-hmm.
But I was hearing about this idea that an influencer, I know, quote unquote influencer, but a business person who's running a community like Mr. Beast could use a non-fungible token to where the people who bought in are now part of this community that get all this special privileges or access or
Mm-hmm.
anything when it comes to his world.
Okay.
They could even buy a token, and then only the people that hold the token would be able to play a game that he produces, or anything like
Right.
that. And now you've got this scenario where these tokens, the value of them continues to go up, just like art.
Right.
And the resale value, like if you hold one of these tokens, you could now then sell it to someone else who wants that access, and you make a profit off of that based on whatever you bought it on. So it's just it's going to be a totally different game when it comes to communities and how they're formed and
Right.
how these influencers or these business leaders can sell access to their organization. Like there's nothing else like it.
That's fascinating. Yeah, that's really interesting. Can you sell a an NFT to a group?
Yes,
Okay.
you can do fractional ownership.
Ah, that's okay.
Correct. So,
Okay.
it's like the sky's the limit.
That's interesting. Yeah.
And it's blockchain. I don't know much about how all that stuff works, but
Right.
it's a unique, can't be duplicated type of scenario key that you own.
I was doing a little reading this week about creating them,
Hmm.
trying to think if there's something that I could create and start putting out there
Right.
in NFT form.
Have you heard of the digital artist Beeple?
No, I haven't.
Look him up on Instagram. He's famous for doing these daily uh, digital artwork where he'll create a new piece every day.
Okay.
And I think he's done it for 6+ years.
Okay.
So he's put in a ton of work, clearly. He, like 2 weekends ago, sold a bunch of his art through NFTs. And in a weekend, he did like $3 million.
Good night.
And that was the
Wow.
original sale, right? So
Yeah.
he had a group of them that he sold for $1 each.
Right.
And then the weekend after that, these people were reselling that $1 token for upwards of
Oh,
$100,000.
my goodness. Wow.
Now, in his contract, I think he gets 20% of the resell.
This was the other question I had. Can you get a deal where you get resale value?
Yep.
Oh,
So
that's really interesting.
unlike anything else in our previous model of commerce, when you buy
Yeah.
it, if you resell it, would gain all of the benefit. But if you do in your NFT contract, evidently,
Hmm.
that resells a portion of that goes back to the original artist, then the original artist continues to make money as this is traded over and over.
That's really interesting. This may be like a whole new way for artists to actually create income, like
Exactly.
like ongoing.
Exactly.
This is fascinating. I gotta do some more research on this.
Well, it's like people are putting anything together. I guess, have you heard of Logan Paul,
Yeah.
another young YouTuber? He did these little digital caricatures of himself, like these trading cards.
Okay.
And I think in a weekend, he made like $5 million through NFT on these cards.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Oh my goodness.
but if you think about it, it's like a digital file and people can view the file online. It's not private
Mm-hmm.
or so
Right.
some people were saying, well, I don't get it because what's the benefit of it? It feels like they're selling air. They're selling nothing. And somebody who was talking about this, I was watching a YouTube video about this. They were saying, well, it's kind of like going to the Louvre
Right.
and going into the room where they have the Mona Lisa.
Yeah.
You can take a cell phone photo of the Mona Lisa and take that home, and that's your photo. But that's not like owning the original.
Yeah.
The original
Totally.
has value. Your cell phone replication of it has no value. So I guess they were trying to make it equivalent to owning something in the real world.
Yeah. It seems completely like that. You
Mm-hmm.
can look at a high quality reproduction online of any major artwork, right? But it's not like being there.
That's it. Yep. Yep.
And speaking of cell phones and museums, whenever we can go back to museums on a regular basis, one of my biggest pet peeves, people taking selfies with the artwork. My wife and I were at the Pompidou in
Uh-huh.
Paris a few years ago. And there was a group of teenagers, probably,
Oh.
just with selfie sticks taking, and it's like this amazing art. And the only thing you're going to remember about it is taking is the selfie yourself up.
Oh.
Anyway, one of my pet
It's-
peeves.
Yeah.
Totally,
Uh,
totally
they
off topic.
they have to show all their friends that they were there, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. But oh my goodness,
It's for the gram. For the gram.
totally. This is this is what souvenirs are for.
Exactly.
That's why you buy one of these.
There you go.
Yeah,
There's your proof. You were there.
that's right. I was I was there. I don't have to have a selfie. I gave him $10 in the gift shop.
I think we should release this podcast via NFT.
I like it. Each episode only available via NFT.
One token.
Just yeah. I like it.
That's it.
I like it. All right. Do we got anything else?
I think that's it for me.
Yeah, I think me too.
It's a Friday.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for listening, everyone. We'll try to do these every Friday. It's the Friday Random Show. I'm Stefan.
Mike. Maybe next week we'll be better. No,
Or maybe not.
maybe not. Thanks for listening. I like it.
That works for me.